And we'll put it live on here. Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Inspired Online. I'm Shay Ali and I apologise if you're watching on the live. We have Facebook technical issues today, but hopefully you'll enjoy it in this format anyway. But today we're going to go all the way over to Toronto where we have the lovely Jennifer Lyall. So Jennifer and I met years and years ago at Awesomeness Fest, I believe, and we've met since in Toronto and in London. And what I can say about Jennifer is just a beautiful spirit. She does lots of wonderful kind of healing work and has got lots of intuitive tools that she uses to work with her clients. So we've had some beautiful experiences together along those lines, and I'm delighted to welcome her to Inspired Online today. Jennifer, welcome, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you, Shay. It is such a delight to connect with you today. We're doing well in Toronto. Things are, luckily today's sunny. Luckily I have a nice big backyard to just kind of get out every day into the sunshine and enjoy. I've got my family home with me and we're finding a groove for how to work. I worked from home, so it wasn't unusual for me and the boys. My sons are teenagers. They've all adjusted well. And my husband, it's been the biggest shift for him for learning how to work at home. So
Yeah.
and also just understanding how to manage our energy through all of this too.
Absolutely.
Being positive and supportive.
Absolutely. Well, I'll start with the big inspired question that we ask everyone that comes on this show, which is, if you had to share your wisdom with the world in a nutshell, what would you say?
Be okay with surrendering. Be okay with surrendering. We get encountered with different situations, different people, different things that really push our buttons, that really challenge the way that we have been. And this year is one big push of that button right now. And be okay with surrendering, because surrendering doesn't mean giving up. Surrendering is about giving up control and resistance for how you've been living and the direction you've been going in, and the thoughts and the beliefs that have been guiding you in a place where you're in this space of, I just don't like what this is. I don't like who I am anymore. Be okay with surrendering. There's just some beautiful unwinding and self-discovery that occurs within. And that's where you find the truth of who you are and what your real potential is.
So there's quite a bit to unpick in there. Let's go a bit deeper. Some people watching this may not be familiar with the concept of surrender. I know if you have a lot of spiritual practices, you may be. But what do you mean by surrender?
Well, for me, how it first came up was back in 2010. My business was not going well, and I'm a smart woman. I, had a lot of drive, and reflection now, I can see how much I was caught up in fear. And I just got to this point of being so frustrated with things not going the way I thought they should, and feeling so low because I wasn't achieving what I thought I was achieving. And I was beating myself up so much that I just had to come up to a place of where I just stopped everything, all the patterns. And I literally sat on my couch one morning, March 2010. It was pitch black outside. It was while the house was all quiet. And I just said, I gave myself permission to discover what makes my heart sing. And it was in that moment, it's just a simple statement of surrendering, like giving up all my expectations, because all my expectations were not taking me to where I wanted to go. So giving up everything of how I thought that I needed to be, what I needed to do, and just say, all right, there's got to be an easier way. So it's just allowing myself to not be constrained by my past and surrender to what else could be possible. And so with that, and giving myself permission to discover what makes my heart sing, I started to just do things that made my heart sing. So I loved camping, so kind of immersed myself with that. I discovered crystals, and so I allowed myself to discover that even more. And then that just led me to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, that then opened me up to my whole spiritual path. And if somebody had told me, you know, 15 years ago that I'd be doing spiritual work, I would have told them that they were crazy, because I was such a logically focused person that it was such a contrast to who I was that I couldn't see how that could be possible. So when you go through the surrendering process and just give yourself permission to see what else can be beautiful, that's when things start to open up.
It's lovely. Now I've got a few ways we can go here, and the first thing that sort of came to mind was I had a story of a lawyer that I knew, and her big dream was to live in India. And she did it. She made the money, she bought the house. She was like, okay, finally, I'm going to live in Mumbai where my heart belongs. So she moved there, and she got very ill. And she said, you know, I thought this was my dream, and I've made my dream, and my dream wasn't the way I turned out. And you feel that sense of, wow, you know, I got here and it wasn't what I expect. And I expect a few people might be going through that right now, you know, because there's things that may have happened that you're not able to take advantage of right now. We've had to cancel plans. So what would you say to someone who's in that space? How do you reevaluate your dream?
Again, I feel like it comes back to that surrender, and it's letting go of attachment to what you think had to be, and just being open to, okay, so what else is there that can be? I can't have X, but I can still have Y. What is there in particular, just with right now, with being in isolation? I feel like we're doing this big, huge energy clearing and detox of our lives.
Yeah.
And I feel like this in and of itself is, as crazy as it may seem, it's a gift for us to all reevaluate what truly is important to us and get back down to the basics. It's like ripping a big, huge Band-Aid off of our life for what we thought we were probably holding together on so many different levels. And it's just like, okay, let's just let the wound that's there, you know, kind of grieve for you how you thought things were supposed to be, and let that wound heal a little bit. So give yourself permission to kind of rest and dive into what is it that you can do that does feel good right now. So maybe you love cooking and just diving into new recipes, or maybe painting or drawing or something more, just something that's totally unrelated to what you thought your dream was going to be. And then you'll start to find new answers. Then you'll start to see a new path. And it could be just that it takes you on a more long roundabout way of how you're going to get there.
Okay. So you also were talking about spiritual work and the fact that this is now what you do. You never dreamed that you'd be doing this. What does spiritual work mean to you, and how can people integrate that more into their lives?
It's funny because how I see spirituality now is way different than how I perceived it when I started on my journey. So when I first started on my journey, I felt like it was all really big stuff, like really communing with the universe or all these different teachings and going so deep in all the different teachings. And my perception now is more so of it just being deeper, going within that connection with yourself. And really, spirituality can be so many different everyday things, like when you're outside, pausing and connecting in with nature and listening to the birds rather than just kind of rushing through life. We've hit this big huge pause button in so many ways. Now what can we get out of the deliciousness of the moment of where we are right now? Watching the people that you're connecting with, looking at them in their eyes, really noticing more about them, really noticing more about yourself. So expanding your personal awareness. So it really is just about getting to know yourself more and loving yourself more.
Mm.
That's my perception of it right now. And it's about kind of clearing away layers and getting to know the real version of you that's underneath all of these old stories, these old patterns, these old beliefs, and seeing what kind of greatness and fun and awesomeness you're here to do.
Absolutely. So how can we get to know ourselves more? Because you may not have ever, some people here may not have ever done that kind of discovery. You in your job that you've studied for, you go to work, you pay your mortgage, and suddenly you're at home trying to, look after two kids or whatever it is. So how do you do that? What's a good starting point?
So I think a really easy starting point is with pen and paper and journaling,
Mm.
um, getting present to what's going on inside of you, um, really understanding what some of the emotions are. Because I'll be completely honest, I've recognized that over the last several weeks, even though we've had more time and things have changed, I feel like I've still been running a lot because I'd worked from home before and now I've got everybody around me. In some ways, there's more pressure because I've got to do everything I need to do and navigate it around everyone else that's here and be mom more so. And yeah, so there's been a bit of that going on for me. So just the journaling aspect and taking that pause is like, what's going on inside of me?
Yeah.
What is it that I really want to do? What's really, how am I feeling? And allowing yourself to be present to those emotions and cry if you need to, scream if you need to, maybe tell the people around you that you know you need to do this and that you're okay, but you just need to kind of let it go. And I know that might be hard to do, but in doing so, you also give them permission to be able to process some of the stuff that's coming up for them.
Mm.
So journaling would be a really good start, and checking in, just asking yourself, and this is something that I've been teaching thousands of people around the world, especially right now, just this little check-in. How do I feel? How do I feel on a scale of 1 to 10 physically,
Mm.
emotionally, mentally, and spiritually? And then what are some of the words that are coming up around that little check-in? And you start to recognize, oh my gosh, I'm like a 3 out of 10 right now physically. Like, why am I pushing myself? Like, whatever it is that's in front of me right now, I don't really need to do it. Let's just take a break. Maybe I need a nap. Maybe I need to go for a walk and just recharge or get a drink of water. You don't realize how much we're pushing ourselves. So diving into that little bit of self-awareness, journaling, this little check-in on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually? And then the other thing that I would say is connecting with nature. And that's something that's really easy, just noticing nature, watching the branches of the trees swaying as the wind is going, and just it's like it's hypnotic, and it helps you slow down. It helps you to appreciate as you see everything coming to life with spring. um, yeah, so journaling, doing a little check-in, and connecting with nature are 3 really easy ways that I feel people can get started with that.
Beautiful. Very nice. So up
What about
until
you, Shay? I feel like asking, what about you, Shay? What do
I
you
don't think
say?
anyone's been interviewing me on my interviews, but
Well,
what do
that's
I
okay.
do?
I just think that there's a big thing, though, for you to add. I don't know, because I remember
Yeah,
one
why
thing that
not?
really jumped for one thing that really jumped out for me about you is that you shared several years ago is your journey with leading meditation circles and
Yeah,
how much you
well,
discovered about yourself and that.
yeah, well, okay. So I'll answer the question as you put it. I start my day with about half an hour to an hour of meditative practices. So some of them are sort of a prayer. One of them is like a Tony Robbins visualization that I just love. It's a gratitude and what do you want to manifest into your life, and you imagine like your body just being cleared out. So that's a 20-minute thing. And then a third one, if I want to do it, is just kind of some breathing practices. There's different ones that I use, so whatever calls me that day. So there's an hour of that. Then there's 2 hours of a workout. So I do body pump and body balance. I'm a qualified body pump instructor now, which happened since we last met. And the body balance is like a mixture of yoga, Tai Chi, and Pilates. So it's like strength work and stretch work. So, you know, I've started the day with feeding my spirit, and I've fed my mind, my body. And then mind-wise, I do these interviews every day. I'm still working, you know, so and then beyond that, it's like, let's not put too much pressure on myself to do anything else. As long as I'm earning a living, feeding body, mind, and spirit, you know, and making my day as meaningful as I can, that's what I do. And then before I go to bed, I also have some practices that I do there. So I use one called Mind Movie. I've done that since well over a year, probably 18 months now, and I watch this thing 3 times a day. And it's supposed to, you're supposed to watch it 3 times a day to get your brain thinking that these things are in the now. And it's amazing how much life shifts. So I watch that before I go to bed. And I also do a bit of kind of spiritual healing and meditation for me, for those I love, and a bit more prayer. So that's how I set up my day. And then other than that, I eat, feel social with people on Zoom, and, you know, work when I have work to do. And so, yeah, that's how I run myself.
Thank you. And so what I love is the kind of contrast between, I was sharing some really simple things for people who can just get started. And then here is the contrast of when you are committed to it, this is what it looks like. Yeah.
Well, I think
because
go ahead.
So for me, like, I also have like a morning practice of like meditation and movement and this little check-in to see how I'm feeling. And I do that throughout the day. And I do that as my wrap up for the day, and also some spiritual reading. And I remember early in my journey, like getting this guidance of, you need to go deeper. You need to like spend an hour in this practice, and like, no, I can't do an hour. Where on earth am I going to find an hour in my day? And the crazy part is that as we dive deeper in it and we take better care of ourselves, we actually like kind of create more time. And that's the magic. That's what I love.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter, you know, at this, we're all at home anyway. So, you know, you know, for me, I think, staying committed to it, it's easy to stay committed when you see results. So, you know, with Mind Movie, my mind was blown by how quickly things shift in your life just by asking for those and thinking that they're current, or convincing your subconscious mind that they're current. And so the reason that I've committed to that is it works. I mean, simple. But let's go back to you. And you know, I've had some questions about meditation, actually. So we've been talking a little bit about that. And some people right now, they're like, I really want to start on a meditation practice. And these are the kind of people that they've got maybe a job in the city, never meditated in their life, they're feeling very stressed, and they're like, I need something now. And so I sent them like quite a simple meditation. It's like, I can't focus, I need to make this work. What sort of advice would you give to someone that's in that space?
I remember how difficult it was for me to get started with meditation. I had so many thoughts in my head, and I was such a controlling personality. I needed things to go a particular way. I needed to control things, and this needed to be this way. And so the idea of letting go in the meditation process and having my mind quiet kind of freaked me out. And I first started with a free meditation program that was on the Chopra Center. It was led by David G, who has this wonderful radio voice that
always
made it
helps.
so easy to connect with. And what he did is he really laid out foundationally what meditation is about, and how you really can't get it wrong. Any disturbances, because that was one of the things, like, well, what if my kids come in, or what if the phone rings? Like, it's okay. That's just part of the practice that day, and there's nothing wrong with it. And the thing that really stood out the most for me was that even monks who have been meditating for many, many years, they still have thoughts. So the intention is not to make your mind go blank, but just to relax your attachment to those thoughts. So I liken it to if you were to be sitting in a doctor's office waiting for an appointment and just flipping through a magazine waiting for your turn. You kind of catch the headlines, or you might catch a few words on the page, but you don't really get deep into the article, and you just turn the page because you're waiting for your turn and you know that you're going to be called any moment. So the same sort of thing when you're meditating, a thought will come up and then you can just let it go, just like turn the page. Get present. If you're doing a guided meditation, just get present back to the person's voice who's leading the meditation. If you are doing a breathwork meditation, just get present to your breath again. If you're doing a silent meditation, I would still bring the attention back to the breath. How can you bring your focus back within yourself to be present again? And even though you might only do 5 minutes, that 5 minutes, it's kind of like defragmenting your hard drive, and then it actually starts to open up space in other areas of your life. So as you start to practice meditation more and more, you'll have these moments of like a second and then maybe 2 seconds where there's like nothingness. And that's where the pure potential is. And as you start to do this more and more, you start to recognize those moments of nothingness in your day-to-day life. And that's where the inspiration, the ideas, and this joy comes in. So it's not as difficult as you might be thinking it is going to be in your head. Just let go, get started. And I recommend, if you can start with a group meditation. So there are a lot of online opportunities these days, or with a guided meditation, just so you have somebody there supporting you. I find that with the group meditation, what works well is that because you're kind of tapping into the energy of the entire group, it's kind of easier to go there. It's a different feeling for me. I sense energy. And even when I was getting started doing group meditation, I felt it, even though I wasn't quite so aware that I was feeling energy at that point. So it just feels like it's easier to get into that groove, like you're supported by others. But yeah, let go of that story. You're going to have thoughts, and it's okay.
All right, awesome. Now you talked about that space of nothingness as also the space of pure potentiality where that joy and that inspiration comes in. Do you have any inspirational stories around that to share about, how this has impacted your life or perhaps one of your clients?
Yeah. Well, I feel like first sharing a really simple story of how it impacted me as I was first getting started. Just to give an example of how this can show up, I remember having a moment as I was standing in my kitchen making dinner, and I had just been meditating for a few weeks, and then I got all of these incredible inspirations for blending different flavors in together with the meal. And I was just so surprised that my tongue and my nose felt alive. And these were like flavors I would never have expected to kind of blend together. And because I kind of was giving myself the space in meditation to just have that pure potential, it was opening up with more creativity in my life. An interesting story. I'm sharing this. Oh, sorry about that.
It's okay.
There was a couple of years ago for my birthday, when I had a birthday party, I had a whole bunch of friends come over, and I asked everyone to paint on a canvas. And for some reason, with paint, I don't like to just waste it. And so there was this palette that had a whole bunch of different paints on it. And so at the end of the night, everyone else had gone on and gone home. And I just wanted to paint with paints and just kind of use up the paint. So I just started going wherever the brush wanted to go, and I didn't really paint anything. And so I just kind of threw it all up on there.
That looks good.
And then a couple of mornings later, I was like looking at this canvas, and it's like, what am I going to do with it? Like, it doesn't really look like anything. And so I was going to get rid of it. And then I turned it this way. And then I saw like this woman here, like the goddess. And you can see like brush strokes for her hair. And it's almost like she's carrying this shield. And it looks like there's this torch. Like that's a big torch that she's carrying as well. And I could not have drawn like the brush strokes for like the detail in her hair. You can see her profile. Like I couldn't have painted this if I had tried to focus on it with my mind. But because I was able to let go of attachment, I was able to let the creativity come out.
Beautiful.
This also, was a big part of my own journey of just kind of allowing ideas to come through. I started doing automatic journaling, automatic writing. And
Mm.
that's where you just get into a state when you're, for me, it's when you're still kind of sleepy in the morning and just writing and writing and writing and writing. And it was through the automatic writing that I was given instructions for my own modality called Connect to You. And then also like the whole process here, go do a case study. And I had never consciously worked with energy at that point. Although I realized a little while later that I'd actually been working with energy since I was about 4 years old. When my big brother, I'm the baby of 7, my big brother had a water skiing accident. And I was the family massage therapist. And I had asked my mom, how did I get to be the family massage therapist? I would rub everyone's backs, rub their shoulders. And so my mom said, well, when my big brother had the water skiing accident, he'd be lying down on the living room floor. I would rub his back for him to help him feel better. And then, of course, everyone else said, well, I want some of that too.
Yeah.
And now I understand that with that, I was actually doing hands-on healing work. My uncle's an energy healer, and he had told me that there's one in every generation, and that I
Wow.
might be as well.
There
So,
you go. So changing tack a little bit then, how would you like to see the world change after our incubation time?
a lot more peace within ourselves, which then creates more peace in the world. A lot more compassion within ourselves to then create more compassion within the world. I really believe that's going to be the best path as we come to witness what has happened in nature with it having 4 weeks off. Well, actually, I guess it depends on where you are. You know, people are starting to be able to see skylines that they haven't been able to see before. In China, they've been able to see the sky. Pollution has come down. Dolphins are returning to Italy. Nature knows what to do. Nature knows how to heal itself, and we have that ability within ourselves. So as we can take that time for ourselves and really see the gift in this for ourselves, to love ourselves more, be more compassionate, and take that into the choices that we make moving forward. When we are allowed to roam free, like don't just go back to the old habits. How can we take care of our earth? How can we take care of our neighbors? How can we take care of ourselves in a much kinder, loving, more compassionate way?
Lovely. Very nice. Well, we're about coming to time at the moment, but I was wondering if you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience today.
Really consider how this time, this incubation period, can be our own gift of discovery within ourselves. How can you surrender in this moment? And the surrender can happen in a moment over a cup of coffee while you pause and look out the window and connect in with nature, and just I give myself permission to really discover myself in this moment, and allow yourself to just listen to that little whisper and the voice that comes into your mind, because you'll be surprised at how much wisdom is in there that you have been ignoring or squashing. But as soon as you give yourself permission to listen to that voice, and it will sound like a whisper, but when you hear it and you tune into it, you feel the truth of it in your heart. That's when it's going to start to show you what can be possible, and potential for what's next in your life. Allow yourself to discover who you are in this time.
Beautiful. And finally, if our lovely audience would like to connect with you, how can they do that?
Absolutely. They can visit my website, jlyall.com.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Keep yourself safe and your lovely family as well. And well, I dream of the day that I can come back to Toronto one day.
I need a London.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have you back here too. Take care and lots of love.
Thank you. You too.
So, quite a few people tuning in. It's good. And